Hey guys, happy Sunday. Welcome back to Speaking360. Did you miss us? We missed you. We had a great time in Arizona. Maybe I'll tell you a little bit about that at the end if we have time. But it's great to be back. And a great message for you today as well for us to consider. What's the number one secret to create your keynote in minutes, not months? Minutes, not months. Literally in minutes, not months. How do you do that? Is that even possible? It sounds extraordinary, right? Is that even possible? Yes, it is. And there's a secret to it. And I'm going to share the secret with you today over the next 2 or 3 minutes. So first of all, where does it start? Well, how many of you recognize this gentleman, I wonder? Ernest Hemingway won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954. He said there's no such thing as great writing, apparently. There's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting. Think about that. There's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting. He knows what he's talking about. What does that mean? It means that you don't just sit down and write great stuff. You tinker with it, you edit it, you keep going back to it, and over time it gets better and better and better. So there's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting. Well, this same principle is even more important when you think about speaking, but speaking's not a book, is it? A book is where you have stuff and you can go through and you can read it and you can come back to it and you can ponder each of the lines, but you don't do that in a speech. In a book, it's the words on the page. In a speech, it's the words that you're saying, but it's how you say them. It's your body language and your voice and your timing. It's what you don't say. So much more to consider with the speech than there is with just the words. But I think this is a great foundation for what I want to talk about today. There's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting. So if you think about a keynote presentation, the thing to remember with a keynote isn't written at all anyway. A keynote is assembled. That's the way Jim Edwards talks about it when he's talking about copy. Copy isn't written, it's assembled. Well, it's the same thing with a keynote. A keynote isn't written, it's assembled, it's built, it's constructed. What is it constructed out of? Well, it's constructed out of building blocks. It's constructed out of building blocks. You assemble your keynote from those building blocks. This is so important to consider. And actually, the structure for that, or the template that you're going to follow, is very straightforward. What do you have? You have an open, you have a body, and you have a close. Real simple, 3 parts. And to each of those parts, there's 3 parts. So there's 3 parts to the open. There's your first impression moment. There's the hook. And there's the setting up the sail. Then in the body, there's going to be 3 key parts to that, depending on what you're talking about. This is for a typical kind of 30 to 45 minute keynote. You're going to have 3 kind of key parts to the body, and each of those parts, interestingly, is going to have 3 parts as well. We'll come back to this another day. But then the close itself is very straightforward. There's 3 parts to that. You're going to overcome objections, you're going to explain the offer, and then you're going to ask them to buy. There's some kind of call to action. So very, very simple. 3 parts to each part, and in the middle there's 3 parts to each part of those 3 parts. Simple. So 15 different components that you need to master to assemble your keynote. Now, if you think about this, when you're writing, when you're rewriting, as he said, there's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting. When you edit your writing, the message develops, doesn't it? When you edit the writing, your message develops. But when you edit your speaking, when you test your speaking, when you go out and experiment and then come back and reflect and tinker with it, so we call that editing your speaking, for want of a better way of explaining it. When you edit your speaking, the message and the messenger develops. So there's your delivery, as we said, which is a huge part of this. So when you edit your speaking, then the message, when you edit your writing, the message develops. When you edit your speaking, then the message and the messenger develops. So we talked about a keynote is made up of building blocks. Well, world-class building blocks, so stories and copy scripting, basically, your examples, the way you breathe life into your work, and then copy scripting. World-class building blocks are not written. They evolve over time. They evolve over time. So you can start out with building blocks. You assemble your keynote very quickly. I always say to people, I can give you a template. We can fill it out together, and your keynote will be done in no time. But unless you've got great building blocks, you've been working on great building blocks, then it's going to be average. It'll be as good as your copy scripting. in terms of information. But the real, to go from high school book report to world class is you breathing your life into it. As you know, it's your life experiences. So those evolve over time. Those world class building blocks evolve over time. So you can do it very quickly, but if you want it to be great, you need to work at it. So what's the secret to this then? Well, work on those building blocks all the time. Be proactive. These are the tools of your trade. As a speaker, your stories, that is what's special about you. That is the difference you bring. Those stories, the bits of life that you and soul that you breathe into your material from your examples, how you've lived it out. That's what's different about you. That's what's special about you. That's what people are going to pay for. That's the magic ingredient. So it's your examples. If you work on them proactively, then you're going to find that when you're assembling a keynote, you're, instead of sitting down with a blank page thinking, oh, I must write a keynote. You don't write a keynote, you assemble it. You're going to be assembling it with what? Well, the first place you're going to go is your best bits. And you're going to look at those and see which ones you can use. And then if you can use them, great. They'll need a bit of refining to make them fit. You'll shape them slightly differently, but you'll assemble those pieces. And before you know it, you've got a first draft very, very quickly. Then you're preparing, you're practicing, and then perfecting for the performance on the day. Simple as that. So the big takeaway from this, I think, several big takeaways. The key kind of big takeaway is you need to work on those building blocks proactively, because they are the building blocks of everything you're going to do as a speaker. We'll talk about that. We've talked about it in previous episodes. We'll talk about it in coming up episodes as well. So a keynote is not written. It's assembled out of those building blocks. If this has been useful to you, we'd love it if you'd share the love. If you're watching the video on YouTube, then we'd be great if you subscribe to the channel, like the videos, put comments up, and share speaking360.com with anyone that you think would benefit or find these messages interesting. We appreciate it. Thanks very much. A couple of quick pictures then. I said we'd just spent 40 hours in the car coming back from Arizona. This is us at the Grand Canyon with the family. The breathtaking scenery. This is out on one of the hikes. This is me with Louis and Amelie on another one of the hikes. Just extraordinarily beautiful. Me and Eliza are out on one. Me and Sue's on a different one early morning, and another one another day. Just, wonderful. And another one another day. It's just like unbelievable. But 2.5 weeks flew by before we knew it. This is us back in the car. Over 40 hours over 3 days, driving over pretty much 2,500 miles to get back home, and then exhausted, all of us, including the dogs, kids in bed, and me and Sue sitting on the settee, and just kind of, wow. An extraordinary, really extraordinary vacation, but it's good to be back with you now. Lots to look forward going forwards. We'll see you next week if I don't see you before. And don't forget, speaking360.com if there's anyone you know that might benefit from this. That's it for this week. Thanks, guys. Lots of love. See you soon. God bless.